Hello and a very warm welcome to BBC News. Youth activists are taking to the streets of Glasgow today to demand action on climate change from leaders and politicians as the COP26 talks continue. Swedish protester Greta Thunberg has made a rallying cry for more supporters to join her. Here's more from our Scotland correspondent, Lorna Gordon. Many thanks for joining us here on the programme at this very early hour. Let's begin with that pledge to move away from carbon. How worthwhile is such a pledge when those heavily coal-dependent economies, the likes of China, the USA, Australia, haven't signed up to it?
Gregory Dacko is the chief US economist at Oxford Economics over in the States, and he joins me live now from New York. Many thanks for joining us here on the programme. This deal's been lauded by leaders from all across the globe, including here in the UK, over in the States, hailing this as a real breakthrough in levelling up and modernising the global taxation system. In your opinion, though, does this deal represent, in the words of Janet Yellen, for example, a once-in-a-generation accomplishment for economic diplomacy? But critics have said that the deal is a whitewash and doesn't go far enough, that in reality, big multinationals, the likes of Google, will still find ways to pay less than 15%. Oxfam, the charity, it's described this as a mockery of fairness. What do you say to that? It's a step, but is this really the great levelling up we're being told it is? Ireland, Hungary and Estonia, all of which had corporate tax rates below 15%. They at first resisted this, but they are now on board. However, Kenya, Nigeria, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, they have not yet joined the agreement. Do you think that they will? And what could be the repercussions if they don't?
Kevin, really good to talk to you. How rare is it that an accident of this nature happens on a film set of this calibre? Could you just sort of walk us through what would be the normal set of safety procedures on a film set of this scale that would stop something like this ever happening? Hello there, very warm welcome to you. This is World Business Report with me, Alice Baxter. Now, in just a minute, we'll also be hearing about the backlash that Boeing's facing about that vaccination mandate. But first this hour, Facebook says it will recruit 10,000 new workers in Europe over the next 5 years. It's part of plans to create what it calls a metaverse, an online world where people exist and communicate in shared virtual spaces. Last month, the social media giant said it will invest $50 billion in the virtual reality project. Let's cross live now to our technology correspondent, Rory Kettle-Jones. Rory, before we start, what is a metaverse? Just break it down for us.
You must be very proud this evening. Just describe to me, who is Dmitry Muratov and why do you think he was awarded this? When you describe what Novaya Gazeta is, the last remaining independent opposition publication inside Russia, it seems interesting that the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, congratulated Mr. Muratov on his win. How does he manage to walk that very fine line with the Kremlin?
In September, inflation, that was up 3.1%. The Bank of England's aim is to keep inflation at around 2%. Rising prices are putting new pressures on households and businesses. Well, economists are debating how much of the surge in inflation can be blamed on the pandemic and how long it will last. Well, joining me live now is George Buckley, Chief UK Economist at the Bank Nomura. George, let me put those last 2 points to you first. To what degree is this surge in the cost of living related to the COVID pandemic? And do you believe that this is a one-off or the beginning of a new trend of higher inflation? And if inflation does keep getting worse, do you think that this will force the hand of the Bank of England to raise interest rates? The Monetary Policy Committee next meets in December. And if they do increase them from the current historic lows, how high do you think they'll go? And we talked through some of the causes for this steep rise in inflation in October, pushing it to its highest rate in nearly a decade earlier. But anyone who has to pay an energy bill or fill up a car will be acutely aware of what the ONS has cited as the biggest driver of inflation, this increase in energy and petrol costs. Do you see those particular costs continuing to rise, or will we see some relief on that front? Indeed, the overriding message from the bank is don't panic. If interest rates do rise, they'll be rising from historic lows. But commenting on these latest figures, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, said that many countries are experiencing higher inflation as we recover from COVID. To what degree do you think that this is a global issue?
Well, Dan Kemp is a Chief Investment Officer at Morningstar Investment Management here in London. Morning to you, Dan. Many thanks for joining me this early in the morning. This decision by the Bank of England seems to have caught the markets completely unawares. I was saying earlier, the pound suffered its biggest drop against the dollar for 18 months. What was going on? Good to have you with us. Can anyone now stop the Taliban from rampaging across Afghanistan? In the last few hours, their escalating offensive has resulted in the capture of a provincial capital and the assassination of a close aide of the president. Now, the UN Special Envoy has warned the country is facing a possible catastrophe and called on the Taliban to halt the violence and take part in meaningful peace talks. Well, here's what she said to the UN Security Council. In your opinion, how significant a move is this for the Taliban to seize a provincial capital? And what can the UN, the US and the wider international community realistically do to put pressure on the Taliban? And if this type of escalation and offensive continues, should the peace talks potentially be called off? Well, joining me now is Arnold Donald, Chief Executive of Carnival Cruises. He joins me live from Los Angeles. Many thanks for joining us here on the programme. So the Iona is due to make her maiden voyage. She's going to be the largest ship ever to fly the UK flag. But with differing travel restrictions still in place all around the world, is now really the right time to be launching such a major new ship?